Welcome to Peak TV. I'm Niv Dagan, Executive Director of Peak Asset Management, and we've got Chris Daws, Managing Director of Estrella Resources. Chris, really nice to see you.
Niv, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Hey, Chris, we're a shareholder. Just very interested about East Timor and how you got involved in the first place there.
Look, I was first introduced to Timor by a young geologist, Dino Gandara. He worked for the government in Timor and was doing mapping and geological mapping across the country, and he first introduced me to the prospectivity of Timor.
And Chris, obviously been back and forth more recently to East Timor. Why do you think that's so prospective?
Look, we have located during our investigations of the prospectivity of Timor some historic geological references from the 1900s. They've indicated that there is economic minerals in Timor, and obviously my subsequent visits to Timor, I've seen firsthand the possibilities that could exist in Timor, including the manganese and copper and gold. So the prospectivity is definitely real in Timor. It does exist, and that is obviously evident in some of the historical work that's been done by the early explorers, but certainly in my recent visits, I've seen firsthand exactly how prospective the country can be, and it has had no modern exploration. So it's extremely exciting for us to get in there and use modern exploration methods to see what we can unlock in the treasures of Timor. We're the first to do it. Nobody else has done it before in the history of Timor.
And just on that point, I mean, how easy is it to explore over there?
Look, Timor is extremely well placed from a WA explorer's perspective. It sits within the same time zone, so we can talk to our teams in Timor during the same hours. It's easier to talk to them in Timor than it is sometimes to the east coast of Australia in terms of the time zones. We can fly to Timor. We can leave Perth in Western Australia at 6 a.m, be in Dili at 3 p.m. in the afternoon, and be out in the local base out at Com by the afternoon. So in terms of getting there, it's very quick. In fact, Qantas's flight from Darwin to Dili is their shortest international flight. And then once we're in Timor, it's very easy for us to go from Dili out to the eastern part of the island. It takes us 2 hours. Back in 2009, when I first visited the country, it took some 7.5 hours. But infrastructure has been built out. There's now a sealed road. We can get there within 2.5 hours to our base. And then from there, we can move out into the field on unsealed tracks, which are quite extensive, and move around in what's quite a large area that we've secured, over 500 square kilometres, in rolling hills mostly, low vegetation, forests, and then as we get to the south part of our concession areas, it does get a little bit more rugged, and you could say it gets quite mountainous.
And Chris, I mean, the questions on everyone's tongues is really what's there. I mean, what sort of grades are you seeing? I know you advised the market just recently. You're seeing, manganese 50, 60%. Can you just elaborate a little bit more about some of the what you are seeing and what's next?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Niv. Right from the get-go, when we first investigated what potentially could exist in Timor, we were struck by the prospectivity of the manganese. That was evident through Dino's earlier work as a Timorese geologist for the government, and he indicated to us that the eastern part of the island was highly prospective for manganese, and good quality manganese and high grade. Think Groote Island when you think of manganese in Timor, sedimentary hosted large manganese deposits. We've seen in our work that this area of manganese through our concession areas is extremely large. In fact, you would have just recently seen our last announcements that we've placed into the ASX that the formation that we're seeing manganese or the actual manganese host or sedimentary unit exists for over 27 kilometres across our tenure. So it's extremely large. There's a lot of work for us to do, but we've expanded out from that 60% manganese. We're seeing manganese from that area right across a 2 kilometre area, 300 metres wide. We're getting high-grade manganese recorded on the handheld PXRFs that we have in the country now that we're doing the initial sampling with. So as we move across and we map that formation, which is the Noni formation that's host to the manganese, I'm sure we're going to uncover a lot more of this high-grade manganese. But that's not all we're seeing in Timor. We're seeing copper-gold prospectivity as well, and we're seeing the right rock types in our initial exploration efforts there, which has only been a very short period of time. We're only in a few weeks and months that we've been in the country, we've been able to already identify highly prospective areas, and we're homing in on that very rapidly using the local knowledge as well. But it's pretty exciting
Mm.
indeed.
And Chris, you've answered a little bit of this, but why, as a shareholder, what for new investors coming through? Why should I be buying the company right now?
Look, I think we're coming off a very low base. I mean, our market cap sits around $10 million market cap wise, where we are.
Mm.
The upside from here that we're seeing that we can build very rapidly through very, I guess, cheap, quick exploration is very significant. The manganese market
Hmm.
looks well primed to be expanding with regards to the EV battery space and the demand for that particular metal. But certainly the copper and gold prospectivity is extremely high. Think of the PNG large copper gold assets and the Indonesian copper gold assets, which Timor sits between. The prospectivity of unlocking a very large copper gold deposit is extremely high, and we've got guys out in the field now running their ruler over this highly prospective land tenure that we've managed to secure as a first mover advantage
Mm.
into a country that hasn't been explored by modern day exploration. Extremely exciting for ourselves and our shareholders going forward.
Chris, looking forward to seeing more of the results, and thanks for joining us here at Peak TV.
Thanks, Niv. Appreciate it. It's going to be an exciting year 2024, no doubt.